Hello there and welcome back to the channel. Now I've done a review of the ZWO CAA Camera Angle Adjuster before, but on that occasion I was using a prototype that ZWO had sent me. I've now received one of the production models, so I thought I would make this fairly short video as a delta to the original review for three reasons. The first is to show you what's physically different about the production model compared to what I showed you in the review of the prototype. The second is to show you it working with the updated ASCOM driver from within Nina. And then thirdly, I'm going to show you how it integrates with ASIair. So let's get started. Okay, so let's start by taking a look at what you get in the box with the production version of the CAA. So the first thing you'll see is actually an adapter ring. This is the same M48 alternative adapter ring that was supplied to me with the prototype in my previous review. There's also a small box that contains the USB cable for the unit, which will just pop out of the bag here. It comes, as you can see, with a 20cm cable, USB Type A to USB Type C right angle. And then we have the unit itself. Now the unit looks very much as it did before, still in the aluminium red anodized finish. We've got the same thickness of the body, 16.7, 16.8 millimeters. And we've got the M54 plate fitted with the option to swap that out with the M48 plate. We've also got the M54 female thread on this side as on the prototype. On the end of the unit we have text showing us which side should be for the scope and which for the camera. They have changed the USB port from Type B to Type C, hence supplying it with a Type C cable. And the hand controller port is still there, but they've changed the labelling of that to HC, so it's a little clearer what that is. On the other side, there's not much to see, but I notice that the small hole with the grub screw that was present on the prototype for adjusting the internal belt tension has gone. So essentially, it's a little simpler in that respect. So that's what the unit looks like. It's not hugely changed from the prototype. And what I'm going to do now is mount this onto my Redcat 51 rig along with filter wheel and camera and show you how to operate the CAA from the ASCOM driver dialog and also from within Nina. Now if you're more interested in the ASIair side of things, please skip to the chapter that then follows, which covers using this with ASIair. Okay, so I have the Redcat 51 rig here. I've got my ASI 2600 with the EFW7 filter wheel attached, and I've got the CAA. So the first thing I'm going to do is to mount the CAA onto the filter wheel interface. And the best way to do that is to turn it so that it's horizontal and then just find the thread alignment and then just rotate it on there. Now be careful not to over torque things here because you can back drive the CAA. You just need to nip it up enough that it's not going to come loose, and that's good enough. And what I can now do is turn this, I want this bulky part of the CAA at the top, and I can offer it up to the Redcat, and there's a thumb screw on the far side here which I'm going to loosen so that this rotating interface will move. So I can now offer this up to the Redcat, try to align the threads, which is a little tricky, but I should just persevere. And then I can start to rotate that ring on the back of the Redcat until I feel the threads engage, and that's working nicely now. So I'm just keeping, as I say, the bulky part of the CAA at the top here, and just continue to rotate this ring until it's tight. And once that's done, I can then tighten up the thumb screw. That's just about tight now. I can now tighten up the thumb screw, and that is now secure. So what I need to do now is to connect this all up with the cables so that I can start to operate it. Okay, so I'm going to fit the cable that came with the CAA. So I've got the little right angle USB type C on that end, and on this end the USB type A, which I can plug into my little hub. I've got a 4-way USB type A hub here, and just make sure that this cable is not obstructing anything. But remember that this body of the CAA is going to remain stationary. It's only the camera and the filter wheel that are actually going to rotate. So my main concern is actually that the filter wheel only rotates with its protruding portion from here to the same position on the opposite side, so it doesn't go around the bottom and hit the base of the mount. And that's something I've got to be careful about when setting it up within ASCOM or within ASIair. Okay, so the first thing you'll need to do is update your ASCOM drivers so that you have the latest ZWO ASCOM driver which supports the CAA. So if you type ZWO into Google and click on the link to the ZWOastro.com website, that will take you to here, and if you scroll to the top you'll see software, and I'm running Windows, so I want to pick the Windows option here and scroll down, and that's where you find the ASCOM driver. So you need to download and install this version 6.5.28 or later, whichever is the latest for you. Now when you actually go to install that, you will find a list of all the devices it supports, and it will include CAA. You need to make sure that that is ticked. I think it will tick it by default anyway. So install that as the driver. Once you've done that, you should be able to go into Nina and under equipment select Rotator, and in the drop down list here you should find ZWO CAA. That's confirmation that you have successfully installed the ZWO driver that supports the CAA. So you select that, and now you can connect to the device. Now there are a number of different inputs in Nina. One is the mechanical range. Now I like to have a 180-degree mechanical range in order to prevent my filter wheel from crashing into my mount. So I think that's rather important. But let's just give this a go first of all. It's currently saying it's in a position of 90. So if I tell it to go to a position of 0, it should move to the right by 90 degrees and stop. Which it does. I'm going to take it back to 90 now. Okay, that's fine, and now I will take it to 180, and of course it's going the wrong way. Now that's because 0 and 180 are equivalent, and it's decided to go to 0 instead of to go to 180. So if I put 179 and I move mechanical position, it should go almost all the way to where I want it to go. It basically assumes that if your camera is turned 180 degrees, you're taking the same photo, which of course is right, because you can turn that photo around 90 degrees and you'll have effectively the same thing. So it should stop about there, which it does. And now if I go to 180, it's going back again. Yeah. So it considers 180 to be equivalent to 0. So it can go anywhere from 0 to 179, and it's exercising the range. Now I've had some difficulties with the actual dialogue that the ASCOM driver provides. And let me show you that. So if I disconnect the Rotator from Nina and I go into settings, it brings up the ASCOM dialogue, and I can now connect within the ASCOM dialogue. Now this is supposed to be a relative move, and this is supposed to be an absolute move, and you put the number in here and click move, or you put a number in here and click move to. If you tick the advanced box, you get a restore defaults setting, which seems to reset the current angle to 0, but it doesn't seem to reset the 0 position correctly, and I think there are bugs in this dialog, and I don't trust it, and I've struggled to actually use it successfully. So I'm not going to go any further with that at all, because all you'll do is see me struggling to make it do what I want it to do. But it does seem to be okay within Nina. Now, given that you've got your rotator and you can successfully connect it within Nina like this, you now have an awful lot of power, because you can pick an object. Let's say I take M42 for example, and I set it for the framing assistant. I can now go here and I can set a rotation angle for the shot. So for example, I might want to do that, and in this case get M42 and the Horsehead and Flame nebulae all in the same shot, and you can see that that needs to be achieved with a rotation of 105 degrees. So if I add that target to my deep sky object instruction set, then when I go into the sequencer, I only ever use the advanced sequencer, and go into targets, it will now have an extra target listed. If I just go back to framing, you can see I just called it M42. Maybe I should have called it M42 and Horsehead. So if I do that again, let's add it as that, go back to the sequencer and look under targets. If I scroll down, I should find M42 and Horsehead somewhere in this list. There it is. Okay, and you'll see that it has a rotation of 105. So when you're running a sequence and you want to slew, center and rotate, it will automatically take a shot, do a plate solve, see what angle it's actually rotated at, and then use the CAA to rotate it to the correct angle, and then take another shot and refine. So you don't have to go out and fiddle around trying to get your rotation angle right. It finds it for you. As well as centering you, it also rotates you to the planned angle. So it's incredibly powerful. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you how you do the same thing using ASIair rather than Nina on a Windows PC. Okay, so I have now got an ASIair in place instead of the PC. So the first thing I need to do is go into settings and make sure I'm connected to the ASIair on the Wi-Fi, which I've already done. You can see that I'm connected to it. So I can now come out and go into the ASIair app and click on Enter Device, and we're now into ASIair. And you'll notice at the top of the screen there is a CAA, and I can switch that on. Enable rotator for guiding. Please check whether the guide camera rotates with the rotator, and mine doesn't, so that's fine. I'm going to do never remind and click OK. Okay, so the calibration data rotates with CAA. No, I'm going to leave that as is. Okay, so here you can see that we have some simple controls for moving the rotator. It says the current camera angle is 0. So I can use this sort of ring here. I can manually move this around and set the rotator angle, or I could type one in. So let's do something like about 45 degrees and hit rotate. And it rotates to 45 degrees. That's nice. I could also type in the rotation into this box. So I'll type in 90 and click tick, and then click rotate. And it rotates to 90 for me. So that's very good. So what we can do now that we've got a rotator fitted is that when we plan our observation, we can set up a rotation so that we can adjust the rotation angle. So let's just find a suitable object to be pointing at. Something up here maybe. Okay. So you can set your rotation angle here when you're planning, add it to your plan, and it will automatically rotate the object to match your planned rotation. The other thing that you can do is go into plan here, and select plan and go into the plan itself, and you can pick an individual object within your plan and click on detail, and you'll notice you have angle here, currently 41.1 degrees. If I wanted to change that, I could make it 45 degrees, and I've changed the rotation angle that I want to use when I execute the plan. Other than that, you can leave it to ASIair to do the rotation for you when it comes to actually executing the plan. So I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're thinking of buying a CAA, I'd really appreciate it if you use the affiliate link in the description, as it helps the channel to grow and it won't cost you a penny extra. And also, if you enjoyed it, please do leave a like or leave me a comment. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so that you can be informed when I release further videos. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. Until next time, clear skies.